Hello everybody and welcome to the third video in my series of how to do various different tasks in Excel. This one I'm going to look at how to produce a single variable graph. As in the previous video, I've already pre-populated an Excel spreadsheet just to save a little bit of time. So what have we got here? Well, over on the left we've got a column of data headed up Q1. Okay, and this could be taken from any questionnaire that you might fill in. I'm saying for Q1 for this is, do you think learning statistics is great fun? And I've given, say, 5 different options in the answers for people to choose from, ranging from strongly agree to agree down to strongly disagree and disagree. People could just enter those choices and we could then just try and analyze those choices based on those actual words. But for example, how do you take an average between, or a mean between strongly agree and strongly disagree? You couldn't do it if it was all words. So what a lot of researchers do is they assign numbers to each of the answers that it's possible to give, usually in some form of scale, so that you have 1 at one end and 5 at the other. So here I've assigned 5 as strongly agree, 4 to agree, 3 neither agree or disagree, 2 to disagree, and 1 to strongly disagree. And that's typical of what researchers do. And you can see the answers that people have given in this data over here. Why do we visualize data? Why do we want to produce a graph? Well, if you look at those numbers, it's actually quite difficult to pull out any meaning from them just looking at them. Even if you spend a bit of time counting them, it becomes quite difficult. And I've got quite a restricted number here. I've got just 28 numbers. Some surveys might have several hundred, if not thousands of people answering them. So you could have a huge column of numbers. So very difficult just to look at them and work out what they mean. Visualizing them in form of a graph helps us to interpret them, helps us to understand what the data is actually trying to say to us and what it actually means. It's also quite possible that you would have, and more than likely, in fact, highly likely, that you would have other questions. Very few surveys have just one question, and you'd find those in your data set going across Q2, Q3, Q4, Q5, so on. What I've done basically for clarity here is just put in one question and just used a very small data set just to help me show you how to do this. You could, if you have a large data set and you want to produce a graph from one particular variable, even from 2 particular variables, which we'll be looking at in a future video, you could just cut and paste or copy and paste them from the main data set into a new Excel spreadsheet and work on that like I am now, to give yourself a little bit of space and a little bit of clarity. So here we are, we've got our data, we've got our answers. I've widened this column out just a little bit just to fit in the answers here into the same column, meaning that I've actually got some space to work in here. So what do I need to do? Well, the first thing that I need to do is I need to find out how many 5s there are, how many people have answered strongly agree, how many people have answered agree, how many people have said they neither agree or disagree. And if you think back to the previous video, that's essentially what the countif function does. So we're going to use the countif function to find out how many people have answered strongly agree, agree, and so on and so forth. So the first thing to do is to go to the formulas bar. Obviously I've already clicked into the right cell, M5 over here, and then click on insert function. Now it just so happens that the last function I used was countif. If it wasn't, and if I needed to find it, I'd basically just type in count up in here and click on go and then find the countif function, the one that I want, remembering that there's a definition down here. I click on OK, and then it's asking me for a range from the dialog box. So I come over here, left click on the bottom number, scroll all the way up with my mouse to the top number and release the click on my left button, and it puts the range in there, A2 to A29. As you can see here, we've got a 5. We're working on strongly agree, so I want to put the criteria in as 5 and then click on OK. And that tells me that we have got 3 for people who said 5 or answer 5 to question 1. Do you think learning statistics is great fun? Now, I could just copy that down, if you remember, using the little black cross at the bottom right-hand corner of that cell. But if you remember, if I were to do that, it would change the cell range from A2 to A29 to A3 to A30, A4 to A31. So we need to remember to put the $ in here before we use that little trick to actually copy it down. So put the $ in, press enter, come back up here, reselect the cell, bottom right, get the cross up, left click, drag down and release. And you can see there we've got all threes. And if we just check the data range up here, you'll see that the data range is actually copied down fine. So all we actually need to do is just change the 5 here to 4 for agree, which I do by highlighting the 5, typing in 4 and pressing enter, and for 3, and then for 2, and then for 1, just like that. So there we go. That's basically the data that I need to actually produce my graph. Now, normally I would say to you, let's say that I'm not going to bother because there's not too much more to do. But when you are doing this, save on a regular basis so you've got your work. So if anything happens, you get distracted by the doorbell, something like that, you can come back to it and you know where you are. So how do I produce a graph from that? Well, first thing I need to do is go to the Insert tab up here on the main menu. And then I need to highlight the data by left-clicking on one corner, dragging up to the other corner like that, and releasing. That highlights the data that I want to include in the graph. And then I go to recommended charts here, click on that, and that brings up several suggestions of charts. We've got a clustered bar chart, we've got a pie chart, we've got a clustered column. In fact, there are all sorts of different charts that you could use, different colors, different ways of doing things. You can different stocks, 3D bar charts, there's histograms, there's all sorts of things. For this one, to keep it nice and simple, I'm going to choose a clustered column. So I just select what I want, I click on OK, and hey presto, there's my chart. So am I going to leave it like that? No, I'm not, because it needs a little bit more attention than that. For a start, it needs a chart title. So you can just click on where it says chart title and highlight the words chart title, and then just type in Q1 is statistics. Fun to learn. Question mark. And there we go. That's a title. Don't need to press enter, which is what I just did then. Just come over here, click out anywhere, and it's put that on there. So that's basically my chart. I've got a header. I could do a lot more than that if I wanted it. If you click on the chart, you will see these 3 little buttons come up here. You've got the plus button, you've got the little paintbrush, and you've got the funnel. So to run through each of them, the plus button basically allows you to include different elements into the chart. This one's just got axis and chart title in. If I wanted to put axis titles in, I could just by clicking that box there, and you can see down here we've got axis title and axis title. Don't want them for that, so I'm just going to uncheck it. Data labels, that could be useful. You can have data labels there, so you can see that there are 3, 7, 8, 7, and 3 for each of the categories. Yep, and there are all sorts of different things that you can put in. You can put a trend line in, all sorts of things. Very much depends on the graph. As I say, the choice really on which graph to use and how to present it really depends on the data. What you need to do is you need to choose a type of graph and the way to present it in a way that actually gets across the meaning that you want to get across. Okay, so what we don't need to see is we don't need to see all these different types of chart and different types of graph in one particular piece of work, in a report, say. What we need to see is the appropriate type of chart or graph used to display the data that actually gets the message across that you want to get across. And in this case, a simple column graph like this does the job. So the chart styles, the paintbrush. This gives you a choice of all sorts of different styles. Scroll down. Some are, to my mind, quite visually appealing. Some are not so visually appealing. This one, for example, I quite like. It very much depends on you, very much depends on who you're presenting the report to. I'm going to choose that one. I'm going to just click off there, and now you can see I've got quite a nice chart there. This last one, this funnel, basically allows me to remove different elements of the chart. So if I didn't want, say, the neither agree or disagree in there, I could just uncheck that and then click on apply and go back, and all of a sudden you can see it's gone. Okay, but I do want it on this occasion, so I'm going to just go back in, check that button, apply, and there we go. We've got that back. So there's my chart. How many times do you actually present a report in Excel format? Probably not. Probably never going to do that. You're either going to present it in Word as a written document or in PowerPoint as a presentation. So the next thing really is to get it across, say, into a Word document. So all you need to do is click on the chart, go up here to the copy command, and you can copy as a picture or you can just copy. I'm just going to copy. I'll explain why in a moment. So I click on copy. I then open up my Word document, select a blank document. I'm just going to tap down a little bit and then just paste and just use the ordinary paste option, and there we go, it's there. So there's my chart in Word. If I now want to edit it, I can just click on it again and the same buttons come up. The funnel, the chart style. I could change my chart style if I decided that one was no longer suitable, or if I decided I need to add in an element, a chart, an axis title or something like that, I can do that. Or this new one at the top, layout option, basically helps you choose how to fit it in with the text in the rest of your Word document. That's why, if we go back to the Excel spreadsheet, I chose the copy rather than a copy as picture. If I copy as picture, I can take it either as shown on screen or as shown on printed. It's always, in my experience, better to take it as shown on when printed. If I then click on OK, go back to my Word document, I'll just come down a little bit. So obviously I don't want to paste it on top, and then I'll paste it in there. Now, yeah, I've got the same chart. I've got the ability to choose how that chart interacts with the text around it, but I don't have the ability to change that chart in any way, which I had with this one up here, which is why very often it's best just to copy it over. Sometimes it can be better to use a picture though. It depends on the circumstances, so you have to make a judgment on that. Anyway, that's it. What I would like you to do, again, I'm going to provide the basic Excel spreadsheet. I would like you to go over the video, then open up the spreadsheet and follow the instructions to actually produce your own little table and, sorry, your own little graph, and then copy and paste it into Word. Thank you very much. See you next time.